As a consumer, how will that look to me when I go into Carrefour or Almaya? Am I going to notice any difference?
So as a consumer, our objective is not to impact the consumer perception or to impact their pocket. In a way, it cannot impact the quality of the delivery, the freshness of the product, the visual look and feel, and it cannot impact the overall spending that you will have on the product.
Welcome, my name is Neil Orvey and I'm the host of the Food Talks podcast. Today, I'm here with Milana Boskovic, who is the Director of Marketing and R&D for Ain Farms Group. Welcome, Milana. Please introduce yourself and AAFG.
Thank you so much for having us here. I'm very pleased to be on this session to talk about the important topic of food that we all know on our daily basis. I come from Ain Farms Group, which is the national protein and beverage company that unites 5 national brands under one umbrella. Primarily Ain Farms is the name. We also have the Marmoud Dairy, Ajman Chicken, Al Jazeera, and Saha Golden Eggs. As you can learn from the title itself, we provide daily commodities in protein such as the milk, yogurt, laban, juice, chicken and eggs. My role is dual between the marketing and R&D. So more on the marketing, it's about communications and brand building, but I'm also very happy to lead the research and development, which is one of our key strategic pillars to grow for the company. Food today is a very important topic for everyone because we need to improve the self-sufficiency for the country and work in upscaling innovation and bringing more food security for the overall ecosystem.
Thank you. There's a lot we can pick up on there, but before we do, maybe tell us a little bit about your journey because you've held many senior corporate roles. I'd be interested to know how you've ended at this one.
How I ended this one, so it's quite an interesting story. I came to the country 13 years back. I used to work for one other dairy company. And then as the country has grown and the dairy landscape has grown, I've been approached by Ain Farms at that time to lead the marketing division for the company. And throughout the years, I would say from 2018 up to now, we've seen so many changes in the landscape from the evolving consumer needs and the trends to the changes in the regulatory pricing landscape, from COVID ramping up and accelerating different areas of growth. And then when we've approached the actual growth of the company, we've undertaken the journey of M&As, mergers and acquisitions.
Yep.
Because we've understood quite quickly that in order to grow, we cannot compete against each other, but unite different national brands in order to enrich the scale and ramp up the operations and efficiencies. So I've been part of that journey since inception, 2018, from Ain Farms to Ain Farms Group today.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of changes, mostly positive, a lot of challenges still, but I'm very happy to be sitting on the shoulders of a giant, as I always say.
Yep.
Because the company was founded in 1981 by Sheikh Zayed, and we are continuing that journey of sustainability and food security.
Fantastic. So you started as Director of Marketing, and then when did you take on the R&D role also?
It was 4 years back. So the total journey in the company is 7 years. 4 years back was R&D also inclusion. And that has been quite a learning for me also. How does the technical application from a consumer point of view leads into something that is good for the consumer daily consumption?
So correct me if I'm wrong here, but my sort of idea is somebody in marketing is very different to somebody in R&D. The R&D, I would also always imagine some sort of scientific background, and marketing is a very different skill set. How do you bridge that divide? They're quite different roles.
For me, it's quite easy because my mom is a food technologist and my dad is an engineer who used to work in a laundry detergent factory. So I've always been what I call myself the child that has grown in a lab.
Okay.
Because I follow my mom and my dad they sometimes do their daily jobs. They are maybe technically different, but at the end, it all leads to one single objective, is serving the consumer. Because R&D cannot function without the marketing insight, and marketing cannot deliver the products or the brands without having a good technical backup, whether it is product delivery, functionality, packaging, or a product claim that we want to make focus on.
That's interesting. So in a sense, you've gone full circle. You've ended up where you should have been.
Actually, I forgot to mention, I worked actually also in Nielsen for a couple of years in MRB, who was a global competitor. And I worked for a retailer before that, so I have the 360 cycle of the landscape understanding.
I'm sure that's very helpful as you're growing the business.
It is. I can see through all the different challenges from a different perspective, one unifying glass.
It's fantastic. So one of the things I noticed when I was doing a bit of research on AAFG, sorry for the abbreviation, it's easier, is that you're really innovators within the space, and that obviously aligns very well with your R&D position as well. Could you tell us a bit more about your approach to innovation, and then maybe some of your key innovations that you're,
Absolutely.
leading?
So we believe that the innovation is one of the key strategic growth pillars. So why is that important? Because we've heard a lot about the dependency on food imports here locally. We want to change the scenery a bit on our side in dairy and poultry commodities. And that's why in order to grow, we have to go not only stay in the mass pool white milk. So the overall portfolio needs to grow beyond that and offer the functionality and health and convenience for the consumer. In terms of actual examples, we were the first one to introduce, for example, the sugar-free juices to the market. First one to introduce glass bottle in milk. First one to introduce our pet in our egg trays. And secondly, in terms of the actual portfolio, we've done the ranges. First one to introduce Greek yogurt, sugar-free regionally, organic range, lactose-free, as an examples. But it is a key guiding principle that product portfolio needs to diversify in order to serve different consumer needs and different consumer portfolios. Because we live in a very diverse country of many nationalities. It's over 120 nationalities in UAE, and one solution doesn't fit all.
Let's pick up on many things here, but the sugar-free one. So my dissertation in my master's was on sugar economics. So this is something that interests me very much. Sugar-free is a no-brainer nowadays, but what was it that sort of encouraged you to be the market leader in this space? Did you do market research? Did you define that there was a significant commercial market here, or was it more driven by the health benefits?
I would say it's a combination of all those factors you mentioned, because you have to have a good grasp on what's happening on the consumer trend and the overall consumer insights. But again, it has to be an economics, so profitability and the bottom line. But again, it was not our primary objective to serve profitability, but it was more to become as the national food champion. And we are very much embedded into UAE food security. And who is better to safeguard local UAE consumer than a local food company? So whatever innovation or new initiative comes, it has to come from a local champion.
And how long has that been since you launched the sugar-free range?
So it was 2021, immediately before the sugar tax. So we were kind of ready for the sugar tax. It was implemented, but it was an early on adoption of a principle that will guide all our initiatives further on.
And what percentage would you say of the product now between the sugar-free and the original? How's that split now?
So it is 99% in juice, because we've only kept one flavor, which is still interestingly one of the most selling flavors despite of having sugar. So 99% is in juice. In the dairy, it is a bit lower, but again, we are developing ranges like Greek yogurt as sugar-free completely in order to also enable the consumption toward that segment.
And what would you say your percentage in terms of sales are of sugar-free versus sugar products?
Well, again, it is depending on the categories. Overall portfolio, it doesn't have any sugar because it is white milk, yogurt, so plain variants don't have sugar. Flavor do have some percentages of that. So in terms of actual breakdown, will be 70-30. Let's say sugar-free versus sugar-free is at 30.
Sugar's at 30, sugar-free's at 30, sugar's at 70.
Correct, yes.
So in only 4 years, you've managed to shift 30% of the consumption to sugar-free.
So we didn't shift because the actual product portfolio doesn't contain sugar. So it is, for example, the chicken, eggs, milk, they are without the sugar. In actual sugar portfolio, we've reduced that in juice to 99%. In the dairy, it is dairy, when you look at the portfolio, 70-30 is without sugar, 30 with sugar. But again, we are working on reducing the sugar across all the range.
Got it. Excellent, excellent. What about rPET? Tell me about rPET.
rPET is a very interesting topic in packaging, because there's a lot of discussions whether it is good or not good. Definitely yes. It is one of the key drivers of the net zero strategy for the UAE, because in our industry, we cannot adopt an immediate overnight shift over the overall circular economy. It has to be a phased approach. We understand it's a problem we will not solve overnight in packaging. So we have started with several initiatives, rPET being one of them. For example, introducing the rPET in the egg trays and now testing it also in plastic bottles, lightweighting also the bottles for 15% with a target to 35. It is a version of the recycled plastic that is also recyclable again after usage. And the initiatives that we are doing towards the packaging reduction are within the phased approach to reach in a couple of years' time towards the full sustainability target of eco-design or materials that are actually dissolvable and still food grade and non-toxic for the consumer.
This sounds like a really important innovation, not only for the UAE, but globally.
Yes, it is. So it is still developing across the globe. Even in Europe, it is a hot topic, or USA. Europe being one of the most advanced regions in the world that is leading the overall packaging. We want to champion also that, again, being on the forefront of the development. It is important, however, it is not the total answer to the problem we have. It has to have other approaches, like, for example, paper or carton reductions, the overall removal of the multi-use materials, reducing to singular materials. And I'm very happy to say that we've done several initiatives in the same segment that have actually improved our operational efficiency, reduced the number of materials, and didn't impact our bottom line. Because again, sustainability is no longer a choice we can undertake, but something that has become an important agenda for all of us. But again, it cannot come at the cost of consumer. We must find ways in the industry to develop intelligent packaging solutions that are still affordable to the consumer, but work well for the environment also.
And at the moment, let's say your packaging innovations, is this something that's mainly in-house in terms of you're using it for your own products, or is it something you plan to export to, let's say, other companies in the food and beverage sector that outside of the UAE, for example?
So we do have some export business also in the material. So all our packaging material is produced locally. So that's first point, that we are very self-reliant on that. Why is that important? It enables also the in-country value for the UAE. It enables us also to reduce our carbon emissions significantly, and it allows us to control the process end to end. So we can guarantee the full transparency and track the packaging from the source of production to the actual consumer usage. We are having plans to export the same products regionally and to some other markets. And whatever we do in portfolio will impact all our approach to other countries.
Interesting. Okay. And here in the UAE, do the regulators take any role in the process of setting the guidelines for food packaging?
Absolutely. So we are very compliant to the regulations that are in the country, primarily to ADAFSA being the Abu Dhabi company, but we also have Ministry of Climate Change and Environment. And we also have different municipalities across different emirates. They are a key stakeholder in making the regulations being fit for the industry, but again, not hurting the consumer. We work very closely with the regulatory landscape, and what I have seen that they are the key ambassador of the change that needs to happen in the industry. We've seen it with the example of the single plastic use ban that will have effect from January 1st, 2026. We see it in the responsible production scheme. We see it also in the net zero strategy. We see it in the food waste, has targets 50% of reduction by 2030. So there is definitely a change in mindset mentality that, again, in a conjunction with the regulatory landscape, manufacturers need to work in order to educate the consumers of the change that needs to happen. So collectively, we can reach to a point in a couple of years' time of having a fully sustainable packaging across the board.
And tell me, as a consumer, you've mentioned the consumer many times. As a consumer, how will that look to me when I go into Carrefour or Almaya? Am I going to notice any difference?
Well, principally, the ideal goal is that you don't notice the difference, but you know there is a difference. Because we've seen, for example, some packaging that are not really fit for consumer needs. So that is something that we cannot go for in terms of the overall riskability.
Can you give me an example without naming anybody? What do you mean by that?
No, just in terms of materials. For example, instead of looking transparent bottle, it looks in a different offset color.
Right.
And being a fresh product, for example, in milk or juice, it has to have that premium, visually appealing, very
Yeah.
very nice look and feel. So as a consumer, our objective is not to impact the consumer perception or to impact their pockets. In a way, it cannot impact the quality of the delivery, the freshness of the product, the visual look and feel, and it cannot impact the overall spending that you will have on the products. But again, when we reach to a point that the packaging is intelligent and it has the recyclability and disposal that is intended, not to hurt the environment also, we will reach to a point that everything is very well communicated to consumer. So consumer knows there was a change made,
Yeah.
there is a transparent look and feel of the product, and that they know there was an effort intentionally created for them to also actively contribute to save the planet and environment.
Very good. This morning, in the opening address at the Food Future Forum, where we're sitting today, the Minister of Economy, he mentioned that currently the UAE imports 90% of its food. And the target he mentioned was, he thought the best achievable, if I'm not misquoting, hopefully, is 60%. So that's quite a big shift. Now, I didn't catch over what period of time that would be, but I'd be interested to know, where do you see, as one of the major food producers in the UAE, how do you see your role in helping that shift from 90 down to 60%?
Well, I'm very happy to say that in our sector, we've already reached and overpassed the target of more than 60% of self-sufficiency. There are still some improvements happening also in fresh dairy and poultry, which is helping the overall consumer consumption. However, the reason, for example, why we have formed the group of companies is to scale up.
Yeah.
Scale up in order to increase the overall volume delivery, reach to the consumer, reduce our time, reduce our operational logistic, and to be faster and bigger in terms of the volume and scale.
So when you say scale up in the products you're already doing or diversifying to others?
Both. Scaling up the volume, increasing the production, serving faster the market, and thirdly, fastly and more speedily develop the new products to the market.
So the new products would maybe be the bigger shifts in the 90 down to 60? Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, possible even 100 to 50, because a lot of the value-added products are actually being imported to the country. But again, using the local knowledge and the know-how, it's about converting the best global practices to actual local ability of production.
So what sort of products would they be, just to give a layman like me an idea? The ones that are not already being covered.
Let's take, for example, high protein ranges. Protein is a big topic in consumption of the consumers. Then secondly, sugar-free variants across different flavored variants, so yogurt, laban, and similar. Then we have the cheeses, multiple other that are not produced locally, but we are planning on undertaking initiatives to produce them.
Let's just talk about sustainability a little, because obviously that's a very key area that everybody's interested in. Please give us your thoughts on how Ain Farms Group is aligned with sustainability.
Yeah, definitely. So I would say that sustainability is no longer a choice we can take, but a mandate we have to follow, as mentioned previously. And it is primarily three reasons why that is happening and why this is so important now. First one is the raising consumer voice in UAE, where we see, as per the results of survey, that 80% of UAE population is looking for sustainability solutions or options that contribute to reduction of the materials and overall consumption. Secondly, it is the regulatory landscape. We've spoken about on the plastic bans and net food waste and losses. So it is something that will continue to further evolve and expand. And thirdly, it is our internal compass. For the company, we believe that the companies must go beyond profit only. I have to take an ethically responsible role for the society and the consumers. That's why for us, that is a primarily guiding principle, that we have to take that role of responsibility. We've started implementing several initiatives. First one being is the rPET implementation. Secondly is the reduction in lightweighting of our caps and bottles. And thirdly is the reduction of the use of materials, of multitude materials to the singular materials. In a way, we are blessed for being the food manufacturer in UAE, because we get to work also with local sourcing of the materials and packaging. So all our packaging, from the resins and preforms and caps, is sourced locally and produced locally, which contributes also to carbon emission reduction. That is important for us because we have to think of ways to improve overall footprint and reduce the emissions, However, again, it cannot impact our bottom line. And I'm very happy to say that the actual initiatives we are undertaking are not impacting, but actually improving our operational efficiency.
It's interesting because you say they shouldn't affect your bottom line. However, sustainability initiatives normally cost money. So I'm hoping that the fact that 80% of local consumers support sustainability initiatives allows you to maintain margins.
For us, it has been the case because it may cost money if not applied properly and smartly. But again, it starts with a phased approach by firstly using several principles of reduction, where we can go to the level that we can apply in a couple of years' time a full recyclability model across all packaging, whereas the overall operation should develop to follow the model. If it is local, has to be still accessible for the consumer.
Okay. Now, we've had a lot of discussion on packaging, which is clearly a very strategic dimension for the group. How does that link in with the circular food economy?
Well, packaging is only one part of the overall complicated matrix of eco-food system. It is primarily the food waste loss. It is the packaging. So it has to be from farm to shelf, in our example. From farm to shelf, it has to be disposable in a way. So we need to see what are the principles that guide those actions, that whatever goes to the market is not actually wasted. And with the certain initiatives in line with the food waste loss strategy, we are implementing those by applying smart monitoring and tracking, not to send too much to the market that is not being sold. That first of all. Secondly, we are working on several initiatives how to convert the waste into more usable and reusable sources of energy, such as biomanure. And thirdly, it is the actual rPET we've discussed, which is, again, a material that can be recycled again and reused and repurposed.
That's very interesting that you're converting the waste into energy. So does that go back into the grid, or you have your own? How does that work?
It goes back to the grid.
Excellent. So you actually, I guess, make money out of that.
My finance director would kill me if I disclose actual numbers, but
there's something.
It is not about making money. It is about using what we have. You say we have to make investments where it will serve us long term, and it has to go back into the full supply value chain. It makes sense in terms of the circularity of the resources infrastructure we have.
Interesting. So a final question: 5 to 10 years time, where do you see Ain Food Group?
Well, it is my big passion to promote the local food security and the local agenda and manufacturing. I'm quite an advocate of the UAE economy. I think this country is poised for further growth much rapidly in the coming years. And Ain Farms Group has been part of that journey for many years now. In the next 5 to 10 years, I'm very sure that we will see a company that has gone beyond the borders of UAE only, grown regionally, even globally, across different countries and sectors. And secondly, we'll be very happy to see that the product portfolio has converted to 100% health for all the consumers. And thirdly would be the fact that the company has contributed to the sustainable packaging and converted all material to recyclable and disposable materials.
Fantastic. Well,
Inshallah,
Inshallah, indeed, and good luck with that.
Thank you so much.
Objective. Thank you very much for your time, Milana.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.